Hi everybody, it's Gemma. Welcome back to Pampered Wolf. Today's video is going to be a full face of the best that 2019 had to offer. So if you haven't seen my best of 2019, I will link it up here for you to watch a little bit later on. But all these products were talked about in that video, and I'm going to have a full face of all my favorites on today, which is super exciting for me. I really love trialing out new stuff for you all, but there's nothing nicer than a little bit of comfort that your favorites give you. I know how this is going to wear on my face. I know it's going to look really nice. I have already cleansed my face with one of my favorites that did feature in the 2019 favorites. This is the Q&A Niacinamide Daily Toner. I then put a couple of drops of the Buffet and the Niacinamide from The Ordinary on my face as well in a little bit of a cocktail. I have also put my favorite SPF on my face. So let's crack on straight with the eye look. I'm gonna go straight in and put the Revolution Conceal and Hydrate Concealer on my eyelids as a little bit of a primer. Now the other concealer that featured in the best of 2019 was the Benefit Cakeless Concealer, another absolutely amazing concealer. I'm just gonna dab a bit of this on my eyelids and only on my eyelids, and then take my IT Cosmetics No7 brush and use the concealer end just to pop that all over. I think I've applied a little bit too much on this side, to be fair, but it's all going to be covered over. And I make sure that I get into that inner corner where I do have a little bit of discoloration. So once that's done, I am not going to set this look in place. I'm going to go into the eyeshadow palette which featured in the best of 2019, and that is the Charlotte Tilbury Starry Eyes to Hypnotise palette. This is gorgeous, really versatile product, but it does have a lot of shimmers in here, so if you are not into those shimmers and glitters, this one won't be for you. I have, however, just purchased the Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk huge palette and the Pillow Talk blush and a few other Pillow Talk things as well, so there will be a review of that coming very shortly, and that does have a lot more mattes in there to use. So if you like the mattes and not the shimmers, then do stay tuned for that video. So we're gonna go straight into this sparkly shade here. You do need a damp tacky base for you to get any sort of payoff with this one. This is the only one that's more of an iridescent shimmer. It doesn't have any pigment really in here, and it's best to put it on with your fingertip. And I always say definitely put it on to a damp base so it's got something to cling to. This is going to be a very subtle colour, and a lot of you said how nice my eye look was on the best of 2019 video, and this is the shade that I predominantly used in that video. It's just a wash of shimmer. Right, so next we are going to go into a little bit of translucent powder. I'm going to use the Revolution Pro HydraMatte powder, and all the way around the edge I'm just going to set the base that hasn't got any of the glittery shade on there, because I am going to use a little bit of a matte shadow now, and I don't want that to cling to any dampness that's left on the eyelid. I love that wash of colour. Just the little wash of glitter all over the eyelid is so pretty, and you could quite easily leave it at that. So I am going to go straight into this pinky shade here. I wasn't going to today. I was going to go for my usual brown colour, but let's be a little bit more adventurous today. I'm going to go into that shade with just a little fluffy brush, a little bit on the end of a fluffy brush. Just tap off the excess because this is pigmented, and I'm just going to add the tiniest bit just on that outer corner. And just with small circular movements, just buff that in. Very light-handed, adding no pressure to the brush at all. And then once I've popped the colour where I want it, I'm just going to feather that a little bit deeper into the socket. And just make sure that's blended. Then I'm going to take a completely clean brush. This is my Morphe E23 brush, very fluffy. And just make sure that all the edges are nicely diffused and blended, and there is no harsh lines whatsoever. Lovely. I'm going to do the same on the other side. So I'm just going to deepen up that outer edge very, very slightly, very slightly. Now, the black in this palette is just out of this world. It really would be a shame not to use it in this look. If you're wanting something a little simpler, obviously you can skip this step, but the black in here is absolutely stunning. So I'm just going to take a very small brush, tap off every single last bit of excess and just dot that on the outer portion of the eye, making sure that I don't go as far up as I have with the pinky shade, and also not as far out either, because I want to blend this in. Really, really nice. Then I'm going to go back with my finger and take that little bit of a glittery shade and just pad that over the top to just blend those two together. And I'm going to do the same on the other side. And we're going to go straight into foundation, and there were 3 foundations in the best of 2019 video. So there was the DIOR Skin Glow in the shade 0N, which is a great shade choice for me. And there's also these 2 affordable foundations. Obviously the Hydra one, which I bang on about all the time. This is a great, great foundation. If you haven't tried this already, I highly recommend it. Obviously, if you're in the US, you cannot get this yet, and I've no idea when you're going to be able to get it. But we've got the NYX Born to Glow foundation, which is a great alternative, absolutely amazing, but not everybody loves it. The one that I've been using on a very regular basis at the moment, which reacts brilliantly with my dry skin, is the DIOR Forever Skin Glow. So that's the one that I'm going to be wearing today, because that's the one I wore in the best of 2019 video that you all seemed to like. So I'm just going to dispense that on the back of my hand. I'm going to take my Revolution Pro 230 brush. Again, this is still not available to buy in shops. I've ordered some new brushes to try though, so hopefully I'll fall in love with those and there'll be an alternative to pick up that, you know, I think works really, really well with the skin. I like to pad my foundation in place as well as stroke it on and paint it on, and I think this brush is great for that, so hopefully I'll find another one that is just as good. So I absolutely love this foundation. Now I've got drier skin, I do feel like this sticks to my skin and doesn't slide off my skin like it did before when I had a slightly oilier complexion. If you do have oily skin, then you might want to go for the DIOR Forever Matte foundation rather than the Glow foundation, and maybe put an illuminating primer underneath it to give it that little bit of life. But I absolutely love this one, and as you'll have noticed, I didn't put a primer on my skin. I don't feel it's necessary with this one, but obviously if you do have large pores, then you may need to use a primer before you use this foundation. So as you can see, this is such a good colour match for me. It is pretty much perfect. I will say though, I do find that DIOR foundations do tend to oxidize, which means that they go slightly darker throughout the day as they dry down. So do be warned, this is their palest shade. This is 0N. So if you have a complexion that is a lot paler than mine, you are not going to find your shade in DIOR. Very, very difficult. They don't cater for the uber pale. I was quite lucky that I managed to find my shade. So once I've got that all over my face, I'm just going to take my blending sponge and just pad over that, especially over my fine lines, just to make sure there's not too much product, and then it won't sit in those fine lines, and also around my nose. Now, as you can see, I don't have any foundation underneath my eyes. I actually forgot to mention that in my concealer routine. my updated concealer routine that I did on Monday, and I got a lot of questions about that. I'm so sorry. I must have assumed that you all knew that I didn't put foundation underneath my eyes. Anyway, if you are new here, hi, I'm Gemma. I upload on Mondays and Thursdays at 8 PM London time, and I am also on Instagram if you want to follow me on there. It's at Pampered Wolf, all lowercase, no spaces. Please don't forget to click the like button, click on the notification bell, and don't forget to subscribe. That goes without saying. Please subscribe. So we're going to move on to brows, and in 2019 Best of Video there were no brow products, and the reason for that is my favourites have not changed since the Best of 2018 video. My favourite is still the NYX Microbrow pencil. It is such an amazing brow pencil. It's really precise and it's actually quite hard, so it doesn't melt on the brow. It's really easy to apply. You can be quite heavy-handed with this product and you don't get into a mess. It's also really easy to clean up with the little spoolie that is on the end of the product. So I can't say anything bad about this product. I am the shade Ash Brown, and oh dear, I am getting to the end of this one and I'm not sure if I have a spare. This is where my anxiety properly trips me out. Oh my goodness. Okay, normal service can resume. My heart was beating so fast then. Does anybody else always keep a spare in of all their favourite products and gets really, really anxious if they don't have another one in? Whew, had a little bit of a moment there. Right, let's get on with this. I always like to draw the outline of my brows first and then fill them in, and then use the spoolie on the end just to soften everything off so it doesn't look boxy or unnatural at all. I know if I go out with no makeup on whatsoever, I don't feel the need to do my brows all the time, so I will go out. I do the school run with no makeup on every single morning, but I always feel so much better with a little bit of brow product. So once I've got the overall shape, I'm just going to fill in a little bit of the brow, only where I need it. And then take the spoolie on the other end of the product and just brush all the hairs where I want them to be, whilst blending all the product that I've applied into the brows out, so it looks a lot more natural. So once that's done, and this side always takes me a lot longer because this side's pretty much in the shape already that I want it to be, and then I need to make the other side match, and they really do not match ever, ever, ever. I'm going to take my NYX Bear With Me Hemp Brow Setter. This is such an amazing product. It actually looks a little bit like PVA glue, and it does feel a little bit like the consistency of PVA glue as well, but it definitely holds the brow in place. And it's absolutely fantastic. Does anybody ever find as well as one eyebrow being completely different to the other, you've got one set of eyebrow hairs that grows at like a ridiculous rate and one that doesn't grow at all? I am constantly having to trim the hairs on this brow, but not this one. It's very odd, very, very odd. Okay, so once that's dried down, you can go back in and refill any sort of bald areas now that they're all in position. I'm quite happy with that, so I'm going to move on to the under eye. Just going to pop a little bit of my Charlotte Tilbury corrector just where I need it before I go in with concealer. This is really good stuff. Just where I need it. I'm not taking it all the way around, but you can see what a difference that's made already to underneath my eye. I'm applying very, very little product, making sure that I pad that in place. Okay, so then I'm going to go in again with the Revolution Conceal and Hydrate. This has the biggest doe foot applicator I think I've ever seen in a concealer. It is huge, absolutely huge. I often take a little bit of product off this before I dip it underneath the eye. Again, if you have a lot of fine lines and wrinkles underneath your eyes, and it's best to apply it to the back of your hand rather than directly underneath your eye. That way you're not getting too much product on that you have to then blend out. So I'm just going to take my blending sponge. The sponge is damp, by the way. It was damp before I did my foundation, and I'm just using the same sponge to do my concealer. So while I'm doing this, I'm going to get ready to pop on the powder to set this in place. And the powder that I'm going to be using is the Revolution HydraMatte powder. I think it's Revolution Pro actually. Revolution Pro HydraMatte powder. And also I'm going to go into the Hourglass Ambient Lighting palette in Ghost and add a little bit of the finishing powders to that as well. I'll quickly get my brush. So I'm going to dip into all three of these shades up here. Firstly, dip into the HydraMatte powder and then go across and then set that in place. So once I have finished off the under eye and I am happy that that is not going to budge throughout the day, I'm going to go back into the Charlotte Tilbury Starry Eyes to Hypnotise palette, go straight into the pink shade that we used in the crease, and with a small brush just put that on the outer third. That's all I want to do, just to connect the dot. Do the same on the other side. Don't want to take this in too close to the inner corner of the eye. Just want to connect everything together. Then I'm actually going to go into a little bit of a more metallic shade, which I don't usually do on the bottom lash line, but I think for this eye look it will look really, really pretty. These two shades here I'm going to go into. So I'm going to go into the palest shade first and put it all the way underneath the bottom of the eye. I think that looks really, really pretty. Just adds a little bit more of a shimmer, not a sparkle. I don't think I really need to go into the dark shade, but you know, overkill, let's do it. I'm gonna go into the darker metallic and just put that on the outer corner. So pretty, really, really nice. So once I've done both of those, I'm just going to take my fingers and just pad at the corners where there may be a slightly harsh line from when I did my concealer. Often I really quite like that harsh line because it really does emphasize a lifted eye, but today I want a little bit more of a softer look, so I'm just going to use my fingers and I'm just going to pat that area just to soften everything off. So I'm not going to put a liner on. I don't think this look needs a liner. I'm just going to curl my lashes and we're going to get some of the NYX On The Rise Liftscara on my lashes. The Liftscara is my favourite mascara at the moment. It not only featured in my best of 2019 video, but I also use it every single day. It can be a little bit cumbersome. I have mentioned so many times, do not cast your opinion on this on day 1 or 2 of using it, because on day 3, it thickens up and it's just absolutely amazing. Now I'm going to zoom you in here if you can see what's happened on my lash. This is full of little clumps and it will go onto the lash. And a lot of people absolutely hate that, but if you carry on brushing through the mascara, brush through your lashes, that will go and it will just be incorporated into the lash and just make your lashes look really full and amazing. Now if I tend to want really natural looking lashes, this is not the mascara that I would go for because this is quite voluminous with just one coat. But, you know, I like my lashes to look really huge, so I'm going to go in with a second coat. Now, you cannot let this fully dry down before you go into a second coat because it does go quite hard and it's very, very difficult to apply a second coat once it's dried down. So the mascara that I'm going to use on the lower lashes, because I don't like using the Liftscara on my lower lash, is the YSL The Curler. Now this is quite a pricey product, but it is absolutely beautiful. You can get really dainty looking lashes with this, as well as really full curled long lashes with this. The applicator, the wand, is actually very, very unusual, very curved. And because of that, you can use the end of the wand to just do those lower lashes really, really lightly. If you want something on your lower lashes, but you don't want them to look really unnatural or very voluminous. I also prefer to have quite a lot of product at the base of the lash and practically no product at all at the ends of the lashes, because I use an eyelash serum to make my eyelashes longer, which I don't use on my bottom lash, but it does tend to transfer onto the bottom lashes anyway. I do have quite long lashes, and if I apply the mascara all the way to the ends of the bottom lashes, I do tend to look a little bit like a doll. So that's a great look for some occasions, but I don't like it for every day. So I prefer to apply most of the product at the base of the lash and then comb it through and have hardly any at the ends. Okay, so the eye look is finished and I'm really, really happy with how that looks now. You could add some liner to the lash line. You could also add liner to the top and lower waterline if you want to make this look a little bit more dramatic for more of an evening look. But I really like how this is today, and I won't feel overly silly picking the kids up from school a little bit later on. I'm going to go back into the Hourglass Ambient Lighting Edit palette in Ghost, and I'm going to take my, which one is this? Number 8 brush from IT Cosmetics. I'm going to go into the first 2 shades all over the brush and just pad that into my skin wherever I'm going to be putting any bronzers or even any blush as well. I like to set the face first. Really, really like that. Then I'm going to go back with my number 7 brush from IT Cosmetics and go into the bronzer. Now again, if you've seen my reviews on this, if you have a really, really deep skin tone, this palette may not be any good for you. So do go into Hourglass and try this out before you buy it, because it is quite pricey. But for my skin tone, which is practically transparent, I really, really like it. So I'm just gonna add some just underneath my cheekbone and blend that out. A little goes such a long way with this product. I am in love with this palette. I use it on a daily basis. The only time I don't use the blush shades is when I use the Ambient Lighting Blush Quad palette, which is also from Hourglass in the same collection. Really, really like it. So once that's blended out, I'm just gonna go into the hairline just to make that look a little bit contoured, and just to make it look like I do have a little bit of colour on my forehead. So don't forget, if you have matched your foundation perfectly to your neck, which is what I like to do, and you've made your skin slightly darker with a little bit of bronzer, don't forget your neck, because nobody wants a floating head, and I often look like I have a floating head if I've forgotten to just bronze up the neck a little bit. Okay, on to blush, and again we're using the same palette. These blushes in this palette are beautiful, really, really gorgeous. I'm gonna take my MAC, I think it's the 153 brush from MAC, but the numbers they've just gone because I've used this brush so often, and I'm just gonna dip into both of the shades. You can pick one if you want to, but you know, why not use them both? And I'm just tapping that in rather than sweeping it on. I think if you sweep it on, you get quite a line that you then have to blend out, whereas if you're just tapping it in place, it's a lot easier to blend. And I'm gonna take that up to my temples as well. I mean, look, I just can't say anything negative about this blush. It's just so nice. It's just so nice. Really, really love that. Really love that. I am going to keep with this palette. Just take a little bit of the strobing colour and just pop that just on the top of my cheekbone. This is a subtle strobe, so you're not going to get uber glitter from this, which I don't personally like on my skin. You can make this more vibrant by adding it with a damp brush, but I just don't think it needs it. This entire palette is subtle beauty, so I don't want to ruin it by being too harsh with the highlighter. I'm also just going to put a dab of that right on the arch of my brow, just to lift that up a little bit. Okay, so on to lips. Lips didn't actually appear in the best of 2019 video. There were no products for lips in there. I perhaps should have thought a little bit better about that, but anyway, it is what it is. I'm just going to put a tiny bit of the NYX Bear With Me Hemp Lip Conditioner on. I find that this is so nice and nourishing on the lip. You don't need very much. I find myself using this on a daily basis just as a lip gloss. It's really nice and it's really affordable. So I've just put a tiny bit of that on, and then I'm just going to rub that into the lip. Now, the reason I like doing that before I do a lipstick or a lip pencil is because it just conditions the lip a little bit, so you can get away with a little bit more drying of a product. And I do find that matte products are quite drying on the lip, regardless of what company does them. Some are less so than others. I do really like the Maybelline Superstay ink crayons. I just think they're absolutely fantastic and they really stick to the lip. But these can be quite drying on the lip if you don't really prep the lip first. So I'm gonna go in with the Superstay ink crayon in the shade Lead the Way, which is such a beautiful, neutral, pinky brown color. Really easy to line the lips with this as well as fill them in. And if you do get a blunt edge on the tip, it does come with its very own sharpener as well. So I just don't think you can go wrong with this. It's super long lasting. So this is the finished look using all of the best of 2019 products, plus some little added extras in there as well. I'm really pleased with how this has turned out. I actually haven't done this eye look using this palette before, so I'm really happy with how that's turned out. And I'm not going anywhere today other than picking the kids up from school, dropping my daughter off at Brownies and taking my son for a haircut. What a shame. I really love it. Let me know what you think about it in the comment section below. And please do not forget to subscribe to my channel if you've enjoyed this video. Do give it a big thumbs up. I'm also on Instagram if you want to follow me on there. It's at Pampered Wolf, all lowercase, no spaces. And I hope to see you all in the next video. See you soon. Bye.